So now we're going to go through the 4 one at a time. So this is also a distilling process, right? It's like I'm giving you all this general information. Now let's go into more depth with these 4 great sayings. So Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahma. This Upanishad, its purpose is to declare the truth of absolute reality. So just to be clear, just to understand that the word consciousness here, prajna, actually it sometimes is interpreted as wisdom, but consciousness, awareness. But it doesn't refer to what we think of in the ordinary plane as consciousness. It's not referring to the consciousness of the individual ego that thinks, perceives, feels. So often when we talk about my consciousness, my awareness, we're talking about my ability to think, to perceive, to recognize, to intellectualize, to experience. But here we're talking about consciousness as something much vaster, not limited to our individual consciousness that is dependent on our organs, the brain, the sense organs, our eyes, our ears. That's not it. Rather, what we're talking about here as consciousness is the very source of all that, of our thinking and our perceiving. And so the understanding then that we are but a reflection or a projection of pure consciousness within pure consciousness. Thought requires a thinker and an object of thought. Brahman, the great infinite, right? There is no separation there. So the great consciousness is not like our consciousness, which is me perceiving you and thinking about you and giving you a name and seeing you in form. Now, all that takes place within the great consciousness. So again, perception requires a perceiver, a means of perception, eyes, ears, nose, mind, and objects to be perceived. But we've learned all of this, all of that, all these perceptions and thoughts are unreal, not true with a capital T. And that Brahma is the infinite awareness, pure beingness, what we call divine intelligence. But it's not God thinking something. It is the intelligence that pervades and is the all. There is no differentiation, and there are no separate entities. All of our appearances are appearing, if you will, within this great consciousness. But the consciousness itself is still undifferentiated and formless. It's limitless, it's endless. So this is not the dualism of me and my personal God. It's not consciousness is Brahman. I am my thinking self is the vast universe. Well, it is at the deepest level, but we're trying to understand that when we say consciousness is Brahman, what we're saying is the universal is this living but formless beingness, and not broken up into those things that I'm aware of. So one way of understanding this is when you think about the samadhi, when you've had the experience of samadhi, and you've gone into that momentary, or maybe it's longer, sense of nothingness, where it's not a sense of nothingness, right? It's just you come out of it and you go, oh, where was I? Well, you were the consciousness. Something like awareness of deep sleep. And of course, what we call the Turiya state. That fourth state that underlies our three normal states of waking, dreaming, and sleeping, deep sleep. So I want to just read a couple. And this is from the Aitareya Upanishad. Who is this self whom we desire to worship? Of what nature is this self? Is he the self by which we see form, hear sound, smell odor, speak words, and taste the sweet or the bitter? Is he the heart and the mind by which we perceive, command, discriminate, know, think, remember, will, feel, desire, breathe, love, and perform other like acts? No, these are but adjuncts of the self, who is pure consciousness. And this self, who is pure consciousness, is Brahman. He is God, all gods, the five elements, earth, air, fire, water, ether, all beings, great or small, born of eggs, born from the womb, born from heat, born from soil, horses, cows, men, elephants, birds, everything that breathes, the beings that walk and the beings that walk not. The reality behind all these is Brahman, who is pure consciousness. So simple, simply stated, beautiful. So where we find this Brahman, that is not our thoughts, that is not our desires, that is not our experiencing in the world, is in what in our meditation we talk about as the gap between our thoughts, the gap between the breaths.